in the context of discussing how a concept which has been finalized can be implemented, we are discussing the issue of embodiment, that is bringing into physical form the abstract ideas that we have developed. In this context, the previous lecture covered the technical aspect of embodiment. That is how to look at the whole issue from a technical perspective. That is, you have to identify the raw materials, the production process, and all such issues were discussed. But more than technology, there are two other aspects which will be the focus of my talk today. A good product is not simply which meets certain technical specifications. A good product is a one which is inherently usable and second, appeals to us. The two aspects which I am going to discuss today are called ergonomics and aesthetics. Ergonomics refer to the man-machine interaction. See, for example, say let us consider designing any product for that matter, say cars. While we design a automobile like a car, we definitely worry more on the technical front, the engine and what not. There are a whole lot of technical issues that we should worry about. But equally important are how will the person who is operating the car will be seated inside it and how comfortable is it? How are the various indicators regarding the functioning of the machine should be shown to him? How should he operate the car? All these factors are equally important. The way in which we decide how man should interact with machine decides mostly the success of a product. A product may be technically very good, but if it is not usable, then it may meet all technical specifications, but what if common man finds it very hard to use? For example, let us go back to our coffee cup. The size of the handle, for example, is not an aspect for which you will get a technical answer. What should be the size of the handle? Is there a technical answer for it? No. We should compile the data on how users prefer to hold a coffee mug and then design that. Take for that matter the one product with which I have a huge problem with, scissors. See the way normal scissors are designed. There are two basic assumptions people do when they design the scissors, I guess, the small scissors. One is that people will have very, what should I say, thin fingers. And second, everybody in this world are right-handed. Consider the problem of a left-handed guy in using the conventional scissors. This is not, I am not speaking about the technicality of the product, I am speaking about the usability of a product. One more favorite case from my side is USB. USB, simple, humble USB which every one of us carry. I simply don't understand why the designers of this USB have a small mark on either side which will signal that should be the top side. First we try to insert like this, it will not work. Then we should turn like this and again insert. All the problems. Simple design solution would be to put a standard mark. Every USB device should have a standard mark which will say top this side. Simple. Will solve half of the world's problem. Most of the designers won't consider this. That is why I keep saying engineering design at the end of the day is common sense. Unfortunately, that's what lacking. This is classical example of a bad engineering design. I don't know who is that fool who suggested building a parking lot and a student amenities block beside a lecture hall complex. Example of a very, very bad engineering design. Whoever that man is, however high his position is, he is not an engineer, he is a fool. Good example. In computer science, there are hundreds of examples of bad ergonomics. In fact, one of the very leading ergonomic designer runs a website called as baddesign.org. You should visit that site, baddesigns.org. That lists most of the common mistakes we do while we design a product. In our field, that is in software design, we have defined two very specific areas to deal with this topic. One is called as human computer interface, HCI, human computer interface. That is one area of study. Second area is user interface design, UID, user interface design. These two are full-fledged areas under software engineering. Human computer interface deals with how do we design the input and output devices so that there is a seamless interaction between the user and the machine. As I keep saying, see the humble mouse. That also makes certain assumptions. That assumes that 90% of the people are right-handed. When I say right click and left click, I am assuming a right-handed person. And mostly there is one more area which is a very contentious area in computing. Not many machines depend on users' ability to understand a language. I need not know English or French to use a car which is designed in England or in France. Correct? Language does not matter. But it is not so in computers. Computers assume knowledge of a certain language before you start using the system. Computers have not reached a level of maturity where computers can be used like we use a television. Just switch it on, it works. Computer does not work like that. It still has a problem. Providing accessibility for everyone is a challenge before computer engineers. We assume that everybody can see everything. Now, how do visually impaired people use computer? One open challenge before software engineers. Always, when we design a software, we never take into consideration these things. For example, take a computer-based critical system like ATM. How will a visually impaired person use ATM? Nobody worries. We think as if they don't exist at all. In fact, there are mandatory rules on screen magnifiers, screen readers, etc., which we don't focus. I will not talk much on this. But the central point is this. As software engineers also, one, we have a professional duty to worry about this. Second, we should have common sense to think about all this. In fact, much of ergonomic design in computers have some legendary stories. I don't know whether I have told the story of keyboard and all that. I told the story of keyboard. Why does the keyboard look like a keyboard? And as in, why have we sticked on to QWERTY keyboard? Have I told? No. Oh, there is an ergonomic reason behind it. Has someone worried why keyboard should have QWERTY ABCD? There is a reason, it seems, that earlier typewriters were not having QWERTY design but a very scientifically designed layout. And that keyboard design was designed in such a way that people would type in at a very fast rate. Because people were typing at a very fast rate, the paper would jam inside the machine. So initially Xerox, then the PARC, they came up with a design so that people would not type in a fast rate. So they did a big study on which are the frequently used keys. And using the table, they took that frequently used alphabet, they separated it out. And the QWERTY was designed to reduce the speed of the typing so that the paper would not jam. See, that's an engineering problem. Typing fast, paper jams. What is the solution? One, make a better typewriter where paper does not jam, or reduce the speed of. Is it good, bad? Engineeringally, there are no place for such questions. Question is, can you propose a solution to the problem which works?
Sir, I've got something to say, sir. I mean, you were talking about that freezer thing, sir. If you see, sir, I mean, everything has got some other demerits, sir. Like if you talk about buildings, sir. We have got stairs in that. If you see, I mean, how can this? I mean, people who don't have legs, how can they walk, sir? I mean, they should have floor for that, sir. I mean, if you're talking about freezer, sir, I think it is made because, sir, I mean, thinking about the maximum population, sir. I think left-handers are maximum. I mean, one restriction, sir. I mean, something or other. It is made according to. I'm saying like.
Correct.
If you think like that, sir, there is demerit in everything. I mean, whatever is there in this world.
Correct. Who is saying no? I am not at all proposing. I perfectly understand your sentiment. No, the point is well taken. In fact, if you see the buildings in MSRT for that matter, it has been created in such a way that people using wheelchairs should have access to every floor. It is designed in such a way. If you see, building codes do exist, product guidelines do exist, but the point is, how much professional obligation do we take seriously? Do we take seriously all the, of course you are still your starters in this profession, but when I talk to senior students, I try to sensitize them in this issue. People don't take it seriously. If you go out and tell a software engineer in a very big multinational company that he is mandated by the regulatory bodies to make his software in such a manner that everybody should access it, they will not agree. Because one, it is time consuming. Second, somebody has to invest so much money and effort on that, for which the returns are not so great. That is what we call a social responsibility. How many of us take it seriously is the question, right? So yes, market forces do take into consideration the majority of them. Minority should always suffer. I suffer. I keep saying, I can't get a right size footwear. I can't get right size of trousers. I have problems, right? That's because everybody has a physical shape which is standard. So if you don't fit into those things, you will suffer. But somebody should take over that responsibility. That is what I am proposing. Well, coming back to where I was talking earlier. Yeah, I was speaking about the ergonomics in computers specifically and with respect to keyboard. So, keyboard as you see today is not meant to increase your typing speed but to limit your typing speed. But see what happens. Any technology, once it becomes popular, everybody accepts them without questioning. So today there are attempts of designing a new kind of keyboard which are ergonomically better, which will help you in increasing your typing speed, but they will not get their share in the market because everybody has accepted QWERTY keyboards. The case is true for any software application. Let me tell you, any software application, when I say user interface, what kind of image you get? You double click on any application, what comes up? File, edit, blah 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 blah, help. Click on file, new, open, blah 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 blah, exit, close, whatever. Is this a standard? Is this the way every software should develop a software? No. But the point is, since everybody is using that, everybody thinks that this is a standard and everybody continues using the standard, de facto standards. They emerge. There is no hard and fast rule that every application should have file, edit, and so on. Right? So usability is a important aspect in all product design, including software. That is what was the first point I wanted to emphasize on. Let me come to my second point, which I had to talk in this lecture. Aesthetics. Usability, when I say usability of a product, I am referring to whether the product is usable, functional. Technically good, functional, but is it appealing? Does it have an appeal? Ken Hurst makes a very provocative statement in his book. He says, humans have a basic urge to look out for beauty in physical objects. Very provocative statement. Do all humans have a natural urge to look for beauty in a physical object? I use an object, a product, one, because it is technically correct. Second, it is usable. Third, it is desirable. It is appealing. It has that appeal. Let me bring in that word. It has beauty in it. Yes? Oh, we use a product because it's beautiful. So, an engineer should not only worry about the technicalities of a product and the usability of a product, but should also strive to make that product beautiful. ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು? ಕಾಫಿ ಮಗ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಪೇಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಾ? We are designing a coffee mug. How to make a coffee mug beautiful? We are entering into a controversial domain, beauty. ಬೇಕಾ? ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರಲ್ಲ, ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಬಚ್ಚಗಳು. Given two objects, similar objects. Engineering design basically focuses on judgment. It is very easy to say whether product 1 is technically more efficient than product 2. There are metrics you can measure. Correct? Measure. You can also measure the usability of a product. There are metrics. My question is, given two physical objects, two products, can you decide which is more beautiful than the other? Definitely yes. We keep doing it every day. Given choices, we say this is more beautiful than that. But how is a question. How? It's a very complex question for me. I am not experienced in this domain, but I ask experienced people always. ಅಲ್ಲ 30 ಜನ ಇರ್ತಾರಪ್ಪ, ಅದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬರೇ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದಾಳೆ ಅಂತದ್ದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅದು? The experienced people tell me different reasons, but I am still to find an answer for that question. ಅದಾಗಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಸನ್ಯಾಸಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಆಗೋದು. The point is very simple. I have been meditating over this question. Is there something called as universally accepted norms for beauty? Let me ask the question in a slightly different way. Is identifying and appreciating beauty a very individualistic, subjective matter, or is it a universal, objective phenomenon? It's very individualistic, is it? Very individualistic. All of us feel what is beautiful for us internally, we know. Very subjective. The history of this topic does not say so. I think there are few aspects which we look for when we say beauty. What can be that? ನೀನು ಏನೇನೋ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಡ. We are talking about engineering design, product specific. Product specific. Oh, if a product is popular, yeah, that means exactly. So once a product is accepted, you feel that you should also accept it. Beautiful. And I keep asking people on what can be beautiful. Physical objects, that this can be beautiful. I personally have a feeling that I am a software engineer, I write programs. I feel programs can also be beautiful. When I look at a program, I feel it's a beautiful program. Mathematicians, of course, people who have a general inclination towards mathematics, usually tell you that in mathematics, certain equations and certain proofs are beautiful. I personally feel that e to the power of I pi plus 1 is equal to 0 is an excellently beautiful equation. E to the power of I pi plus 1 equals 0 is a very beautiful equation. Many people have that feeling. So what do you associate beauty with is a very, very complex question to answer. Many people feel, in fact early Romans and Greeks believed that beauty means proportion. Proportion. If something is symmetric and is in a certain proportion, that will be beautiful. Classic example, golden ratio. Golden ratio. Da Vinci Code, Michelangelo, golden ratio and all that. Golden ratio. Pythagoras believed that it is God's gift to humans. Golden ratio. Leonardo da Vinci made a study of human figure and said that there is a golden ratio. Golden ratio, I hope all of you know what it is. A plus B by A. Arithmetically, the value, golden ratio value is 1.618. 1.168 is to 1, we say is a golden ratio. Everybody thinks that this is beautiful. In fact, most of the earlier buildings, in fact even in Taj Mahal, it seems there is a repeated use of golden ratio. That is why everybody feels that Taj Mahal is beautiful to look at. So this issue has been discussed by various people. In fact, if you talk to any artist, especially who makes human sketches, they will tell you that there is a particular proportion of a human face or of a human body. People who possess that particular ratio, we always consider them to be beautiful. In fact, I personally know of a software which some people were trying to develop, wherein users are asked to rate particular photographs. Then those photographs are given as input to that particular software. That software should learn, studying those photographs, what is the actual parameters which people think is good and come up with a set of rules to decide what is beautiful. I think the people who can correctly answer this question are all these beauty contest judges will be there. No, we should ask them. How do you judge sitting there who is beautiful, who is not, and all that. In computers also, this discussion I don't want to take to greater length for obvious reasons. There is always a possibility of we slipping into problematic areas, discussing beauty and other things. and I am not very qualified to discuss that also. So let us forget it. The shift in the topic, let me come to how do we decide on interpreting these things in software design. In software, there is an idea of user interface designing, wherein we feel that certain colors used in a certain way makes people use the software again and again. Can somebody by observation tell me what is the most common color used in software? One color which you predominantly see in. Blue. Blue. For a large extent, if you see, 90% of the software in the world use blue predominantly. In fact, when you come to the senior semesters, we will probably have a full-fledged course on user interface design, where there is a whole list of topics to discuss the emergence of colors as a cultural metaphor and the significance of using colors. All of us understand that. Of course, if I start discussing today on how and whys of using colors, you will ask me, sir, ನಿಮಗೇನು ಗೊತ್ತು ಕಲರ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ? ನಮಗಾದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಯಾವ ಕಲರ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ಮ್ಯಾಚಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ನೀವೆಷ್ಟು ಮ್ಯಾಚಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಕೋತೀರಾ? All these questions are obviously asked, so I will not go into that. But definitely there is an understanding that in software also we have to use all the aspects like colors, typefaces, their size, etc. when used in a certain way. For example, in typefaces, people have always felt that using strict typefaces like Times New Roman, people always associate that with something formal. Instead, if you use sans fonts, people always associate with informal things. That is always done in computers. Such aesthetic things are there. And one more problem with aesthetic is, this is generally a discussion under religion, under culture. Aesthetics are not a universal value set. What one culture, what people of one religion feel is good, right, beautiful, the people of other culture, of other religion feel is obscene. I am not being judgmental here, but let me put this point. I have no intention of being controversial. For example, the issue of wearing burqa. From an aesthetic perspective, I am not discussing that from any other perspective. From an aesthetic perspective, the Islamic aesthetic says that the main agenda of wearing a burqa, apart from all the social reasons and other things, is to create this equality and to nullify the individualistic commodification of a woman. But when seen from the modern perspective, the post-Renaissance, Europe-influenced thinking, the feeling today is that burqa enslaves women. Instead of highlighting the aesthetic value of that piece of cloth, today we are seeing it as a symbol of enslavement of women. Values change from culture to culture, place to place, religion, all these factors come into picture. For example, in India we have a different set of aesthetics. We call it rasa. Aesthetics, Indian word is rasa. We have 9 different rasas, we say, Navarasa. Right? Each has its own definition. And there are all the Indian arts, whether be it music, painting, anything, has a detailed list on how to bring out that kind of rasa in your audience. And one more controversial point is there. In India, we feel that an art scene is always complete, is not complete, without having people who can actually appreciate these rasa. They are called rasikas. I consider myself a big rasika. Not in the wrong sense which popular culture understands it, but in a very decent and in a very culturally polished way, Rasika means a person who can understand the intricacies of any art. I conduct a course in film appreciation. I do conduct it in many places on film appreciation. The first question people always ask me is, how can you tell people how to appreciate films? I mean, are you such a big fellow there that you have seen and known everything in films that you tell others how to appreciate cinema? ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಜನ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಏನು 100 days ಓಡ್ಬಿಡಿದ್ಯಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಿನಿಮಾ? That you are teaching others how to appreciate cinema. It's not that. I need not be knowing all the intricacies of all the ragas to appreciate and enjoy music. I know how to enjoy. That is more important. So, in Indian perspective, there is a very different understanding of these things. If you look at Western ideas, they are different. In China, they have a very different understanding of what aesthetics mean. For them, small is beautiful. ಆ ಟ್ರೀಸ್ನೂ ಬಿಡಲ್ಲ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು they grow in small. Small is beautiful for them. Yeah, you want to make a point?
I believe that what is perceived is correlates to how much you know about the subject. Like say about the equation stuff. So if I was a layman and I didn't know anything about that particular equation or anything around it, then probably it would seem like
It's absurd.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't appreciate beauty in that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
if I know something related to it,
Exactly. Then you will associate. I have a counter example for Sido. I have observed this phenomenon. Don't get me wrong, but again, this is an observation done. Few people, especially this observation I did mainly during the ಏನು ಹೇಳೋದು ಮದುವೆ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ I have observed. ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳೆಲ್ಲ ಕಲ ಅಂತ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬಂದರೆ, I should speak in English, okay, sorry. In the social gatherings like marriage, always people try to dress well for the occasion and all that. I have observed my small cousin, 2.5 years. Papa ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಹುಡುಗ, he's a good boy. But generally, if somebody is well dressed, whatever the popular perception we have on beautifully dressed girls ಅಂತ ಇದ್ರೆ, this small guy 2.5 years ಅವಳ ಹಿಂದೆನೆ ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. I am not, see what I am trying to say is, in fact you see small babies generally, again I am not being very critical, generally you observe small babies. Usually, again, people who if they come from a particular socio-economic background, if they try to get the baby, usually when they try to understand the mother's warmth and try to distinguish from, I am saying babies between the 6 and 10 months, when they start understanding the basics, even they will reject them. Have you observed that? That means I somehow have the feeling that everyone, irrespective of who he is and what he is and everything, have an inherent feeling towards what is beautiful and what is not. There is a common consensus among most of us on what is beautiful. We can take some things and say beautiful, most of us may agree. Few people may disagree, but general consensus is there. That is why I keep on saying, Descartes said very famously that I think therefore I am. I think I am rational human being, therefore I exist. I have my own saying. I say that I feel, therefore I exist. More than my ability to think rationally on a subject, our ability to emotionally identify with certain things identifies us as human beings. Right? It happens even with your pets, observe. They have a feeling towards something which you can qualify as good or beautiful. I forgot to mention, in India, we don't distinguish between truth and beauty. Keats, what did Keats say? Keats, truth, beauty, beauty, truth. An object of beauty is a joy forever. Kids said, we believe in that. In India, we very famously say, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, not the film. Anything which is beautiful is truth. That itself is God. Anything which is truth is beautiful. If there is God, He should be truth and beautiful at the same time. For us, there is no difference. When you equate truth with beauty, you come up with various possibilities. If you say truth is beauty, beauty is truth, then beauty cannot be subjective. For truth is not subjective. 2 plus 3 is 5. Whether you say or I say 2 plus 3 is 5. That is truth. Similarly, this bottle should be beautiful. If I say or you say. Are you understanding the difference? So, when we equate beauty with truth, subjectivity vanishes. And beauty becomes a property of an object. Beauty becomes the property of an object. Either an object is beautiful or it is not beautiful. It's a property of an object. Tumba philosophy agudu. I'll come back. So, my conclusion for the day is this. In designing a product using engineering principle, whatever product that we are designing, we have to worry on 3 aspects. One on the technical aspect of it, which has a whole list of things to do, which we have discussed earlier, and what we have discussed today. The usability of it, which we call as ergonomics, and the whole appeal value of a product, which we call aesthetics. Any product which has the right balance of all these 3 things may become successful. There is no guarantee that it will become successful. It may become successful. So I end my lecture here.